Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 248 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota, having just returned from delivering programs for the Quad County Fire Chiefs Association in Idaho and 2 programs for the Pearland Fire Department in Pearland, Texas. If you like the show, please consider subscribing. For the audio version of the show, you can go to SAMatters on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. For the video version, then you would go over to YouTube and subscribe to SAMatters TV. And if you like the show, I'd really appreciate it if you would consider rating the show and giving it a review. Your ratings and reviews help others to find this program. Before I get into today's feature segment, I want to take a moment to give a shout out to the Fire Rescue Show and its host, a young man named Jared. I did an interview on his podcast last week, and man, this young man has quite a passion for the fire service, and he's one terrific interviewer, in fact. As a matter of fact, it was a question that Jared asked me during that interview that I couldn't answer that inspired today's show. He asked me what were the top 10 near-miss interviews that I have conducted. So check out the Fire Rescue Show on iTunes. I'm going to also be a guest on the 5 Alarm Task Force podcast next week. Thanks to Steve Green for reaching out to me and giving the opportunity to share the Situational Awareness Matter message with your listeners. Also next week, I'm going to be conducting 2 interviews, one with a young man who is a civilian responder and one of the first on the scene for the Amtrak train derailment on December 18th, 2017. You may want to go back and listen to episode 192, where I interviewed Larry Creekmore. He was one of the initial response incident commanders for the train derailment. Then I have an interview scheduled with Devin Farmer from the German Township Fire Department in Indiana. He was in charge of a structure fire incident when conditions changed rapidly and he lost contact with his interior crews, prompting a mayday. So, as you can see, there's some really exciting things coming up in the weeks to come. All right, let's jump into our feature segment where I will be listing and discussing the 10 most popular near-miss episodes. This show launched back in 2014 to give a platform to those who've had near-miss events to share their stories. During my classroom programs, I often ask about near-miss events, and the attendees have shared some amazing stories. Those stories motivated me to launch a podcast so that their stories could be shared with a bigger audience. The Situational Awareness Matters show, the podcast, and our companion video program, SAMatters TV on YouTube, along with other videos hosted there, have enjoyed almost 800,000 downloads. I'm very thankful for that support. But I'm more thankful that there is a platform to share these amazing stories with you. All right, with no further delay, let me jump into this list and discuss the 10 most popular near-miss interviews. Coming in at number 10, episodes 183, 184, and 185. A three-part interview with two members of the St. Charles, Missouri Fire Department discussing a near-miss event where 4 firefighters were overrun by rapidly changing conditions at a residential dwelling fire. On January 3, 2014, the St. Charles, Missouri Fire Department responded to a single-family residential fire on Nancy Drive. This episode chronicled the events told by Captain Chip Ashford and Battalion Chief Dan Casey as they unfolded. The thermal assault endured by these 4 firefighters resulted in injuries that included 2nd and 3rd degree burns and a shoulder injury from bailing out a window. Again, that's episodes 183, 184, 185 with Captain Chip Ashford and Battalion Chief Dan Casey. Coming in at number 9 is episode 29, my interview with Spokane, Washington Fire Chief Brian Schaefer. On July 5, 2013, the Spokane Fire Department responded to a report of a commercial building fire at the Mayfair Professional Building located at 5901 North Mayfair. Within 2 minutes of the alarm, the first arriving company found light smoke coming from an area of the HVAC units on the side of the building. The structure was a Type 5 construction, 2-story structure with a basement. The fire progressed quickly, nearly trapping crews on the first floor and in the basement. The first arriving crews attempted to knock down the fire from the exterior but were not successful. Subsequently, companies went to the basement expecting to find fire in the basement. The conditions were warm with very little smoke. The basement design was very complex. The battalion chief had a charge line with them and started to search for victims and for the fire. The crews were cutting holes in the walls and ceilings looking for the source of the fire. Chief Schaefer then arrived and noticed that the conditions were getting worse. An order was given to cut access holes from the exterior. The battalion chief in the basement was reporting relatively clear conditions. Heavy smoke under pressure on the outside, but nothing on the inside. Chief Schaefer then became Division 1 on the first floor. He reported light smoke on the first floor as well. Companies were doing a primary and secondary search of the first floor and looking for extension into the basement. Soon the conditions started changing quickly, and Division 1 reported this to the basement division. The first floor crews were by this time on their knees. The basement reported no smoke and cold conditions. Exterior reported dramatic changes in the conditions, however. The crew on the first floor were now in complete darkness. The first floor crew exited, however, the crews were still in the basement. As conditions continued to change rapidly, an evacuation tone was ordered, and Division 1 crews went to the basement to locate and assist those crews with their removal. Some takeaways from this interview included how rapidly changing fire conditions can unexpectedly overrun crews. How if you listen to that episode, you'll hear what you can learn when the fire does not behave the way it's expected. In other words, when the puzzle pieces don't fit together. You'll learn how you can become normalized to your environment and may not be able to see the severity of the conditions. You'll also hear how volumes of radio traffic on a single tactical channel can impact scene safety if at-risk crews cannot communicate via radio. You'll also learn about time distortion and how that impacted the perception of the speed at which the incident conditions were changing. And you'll learn how Spokane Fire is using the skills of a psychologist to help develop emotional intelligence, build incident scene situational awareness, and recover from traumatic incidents. Good stuff. Again, that's episode 29 with Spokane Fire Chief Brian Schaefer. Coming in at number 8 is episodes 22 and 23. My interview with Youngstown Fire Department Captain John Lightly. John almost died as a result of being caught in a flashover. For reasons that will become obvious during the interview, I titled this episode 3 Feet from Death and dedicated it to all the firefighters who have been caught in flashovers but did not live to tell a story. In this 2-part episode, you'll learn how John conducted his size-up and made a determination based on clues and cues that formed his situational awareness that there was a high probability that the house was occupied. You'll learn how the flashover occurred within 2 minutes of entry, a recurring theme that I see at flashover casualty incidents. You'll learn how communications challenged the understanding among crew members. You'll learn how John experienced tachypsychia, a slowing down of time when the flashover occurred. And you'll listen to John describe how he felt his intuition in the form of a sick feeling in his gut, a feeling that he described as a punch in the stomach. John will also talk about his self-speak, that neurological phenomena where we talk to ourselves during high-consequence situations. Only John doesn't call it self-speak, and I explain that in the interview. And then you'll learn how John's entry the first 2 times were under the premise of assuming the risk of being a firefighter, yet admits that on his 3rd entry, he did not assume risk, he created risk. Very different. And again, that's episodes 22 and 23 with then Captain John Lightly from Youngstown Fire Department, who has now since been promoted to Battalion Chief John Lightly. And on a side note, John was the first and Battalion Chief on a tragic residential fire just before Christmas that killed 5 children. He reached out to me and told me that the lessons that he learned in my class about situational awareness and high-risk decision-making and stress management techniques that I shared really paid off for him that day. I hope to have John on as a guest soon to talk about that fire and what that whole situation was like for him. Coming in at number 7 are episodes 35 and 36, a 2-part interview with firefighter Lionel Crowther from the Winnipeg, Manitoba Fire Department. On February 4th, 2007, a day that forever changed the lives of Lionel and Joanna Crowther. Lionel was off duty and he got called in for an overtime shift, and early into the shift, his company, Engine 101, was dispatched to report of a residential dwelling fire. Within minutes of responding to the call, a flashover occurred. Flames engulfed the entire house, trapping several firefighters on the 2nd floor. Lionel managed to escape by jumping out a 2nd-story window. When the smoke cleared and the flames were extinguished, 2 fire captains had been killed, and 4 firefighters, including Lionel, had been severely burned. Some takeaways from this interview include their department members had received RIT training, but were not trained on when or how to call a mayday, a missing component to this very critical outcome of this incident. He'll talk about the importance of being a student of every fire. He'll talk about the need to acknowledge our own weaknesses and to see where we can find opportunities to improve. He'll talk about the importance of not judging others regardless of their opinions, and he'll talk about the value of learning from line-of-duty death reports and near-miss reports. And we'll also share some lessons about how little mistakes can add up to a catastrophe. We'll talk about how brain function changes under stress and how our apparent common sense may be non-existent. We'll talk about how this tragedy impacted him and how it can impact family members, and the tragic outcomes that can come to any of us at any time. Again, those episodes 35 and 36 with Lionel Crowther from the Winnipeg, Manitoba Fire Department. Coming in at number 6, episodes 162 and 163, my 2-part interview with Captain John Mays, Captain John Ripley, and Deputy Chief Greg Wormser, who are from the Lynchburg, Virginia Fire Department, who was on a first alarm assignment to report of a residential dwelling fire. As the incident progressed, the conditions changed, resulted in a significant near-miss event. Again, episodes 162 and 163 with Captain Bob Mays, Captain John Ripley, and Deputy Chief Greg Wormser from Lynchburg, Virginia. Coming in at number 5, episode 18. I titled this episode, What I Learned in Just 2 Minutes. It was an interview with Lieutenant Sean Dolan from the Aurora, Colorado Fire Department. On January 7, 2013, Sean, then serving as a firefighter on Engine 7, became a close call survivor. When he entered a structure at 16562 East Asbury Place, a single-story residential dwelling with confirmed people trapped, Sean made entry through the front door and with an 1 3/4 line provided protection for the truck company that was searching for the known victims. As conditions got worse, Sean was caught in the wake of a fast advancing fire. A mayday was called. Sean suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns prior to being pulled to safety by fellow firefighters. And while the entire experience just lasted 2 minutes, Sean had some great advice for others about these powerful lessons, including having gut feelings known as intuition and knowing that why he ignored his warning signs of intuition, and he recognized that as the conditions were changing, he noted what he needed to do and was trying to talk his way out of it, but was unsuccessful. How he didn't listen to his instincts, and when he felt like he was going to die, he got overwhelmed by a sense of calm instead of a sense of freak. That phenomena, by the way, was shared in episode 9 with John Wright, a survivor of a near-miss event as well. Sean talked about, during the interview, his inherent need to feel the need to win at the fire, and how that motivated him to want to beat the fire at almost cost him his life, and why he thinks that it's beneficial to have an officer inside with you, which he did not. He suffered from auditory exclusion, a barrier to situational awareness, and how he literally went deaf during the incident. He didn't hear any radio traffic the whole time he was inside. He talked about how his training can set firefighters up for failure by training that is unrealistic, and how firefighters are taught to make very aggressive interior attacks with an always win mentality. He talked about how urgency got the best of him and forced him to do things that if he wished he'd have slowed down for, and how to apply the lessons learned from this incident in his new capacity as a company officer, and how he instructs his crews in seeing bad things coming at incident scenes that he's in charge of now as a company officer. Again, that's episode 18 with Lieutenant Sean Dolan from the Aurora, Colorado Fire Department. Coming in at number 4 is episode 101, where I interviewed members of the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Fire Department who experienced a near-miss event when the platform truck 7, came in contact with a 33 kV transmission line during a routine truck check at the station. Captain Ryan Cox, fire apparatus operator Tom Reel, firefighter Jay McManigal, and firefighter John Alvey shared the details of this near miss during a routine truck check when Ladder 7 came in contact with a 33 kV transmission line on January 2nd, 2016. If circumstances were just slightly different, this incident could have easily resulted in multiple firefighter fatalities. Again, that's episode 101 with Captain Ryan Cox, fire apparatus operator Tom Reel, firefighter Jay McManigal, and firefighter John Alvey of the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Fire Department. Coming in at number 3 is episode 55 and my interview with Cypress Creek Fire Lieutenant Jason Corthell, where he talks about a structure fire near-miss event where he was ascending a set of exterior stairs on a fast-moving apartment fire. The fire was inside the apartment and in the attic. The stairs, constructed of steel and concrete, were not involved in the fire. When the nozzleman was on the 3rd floor of the landing trying to prepare for the attack, and Jason Corthell and District Chief Sanchez were on the 2nd floor landing, advancing the hose to the nozzleman. Suddenly and without warning or provocation, the stairwell collapsed on the 2 firefighters who were on the landing. The firefighter who was on the 3rd floor landing rode the debris down to the 2nd floor landing and was uninjured. Lieutenant Corthell radioed. His radio was dislodged in the collapse and he could not call a mayday. The C-Sector commander noticed the collapse, called the mayday, and deployed resources to successfully rescue the trapped firefighters. You'll hear how Jason described what was going through his mind as he was trapped and could not move. How he felt a sense of calm and came to peace with himself that he was going to die, and how he prayed to God to take him quickly. It's a very powerful interview. Again, episode 55 with Cypress Creek Lieutenant Jason Corthell. Coming in at number 2 is episode 17 with Indianapolis Fire Department Health and Safety Chief Doug Abernathy. This fire occurred just after midnight on February 2nd, 1992, when 911 dispatchers reported smoke in the lobby of the old Athletic Club Hotel, a 9-story non-sprinkler building, and had a working fire on the 3rd floor. Before the fire could be extinguished, Corporal Elwood M. Woody Galenius, 47, and Private John L. Lorenzano, 29, would be killed. At the same fire, Doug Abernathy, as a firefighter assigned to Engine 13, experienced the near-miss event himself, and then after surviving that near-miss, assisted in the search and location of his 2 comrades, one of which was a classmate of his at the academy just 4 years earlier. Normally when I conduct an interview, I like to stop along the way and have questions and engage in a discussion with my guest. For this story with Doug, it was so compelling and so impactful that I simply could not bring myself to interrupt this amazing story. Again, that's episode 17 with Indianapolis Fire Department Health and Safety Chief Doug Abernathy. And coming in at number 1, episodes 43 and 44, my interview with Asheville, North Carolina Fire Chief Scott Burnett. In this 2-part interview, we talk about a structure fire at 445 Biltmore Avenue on July 28, 2011, that resulted in the tragic line-of-duty death of Captain Jeff Bowen. During the interview, Chief Burnett talks about the fateful day and the significant changes that have occurred in the Asheville Fire Department, changes that every department could benefit from learning about. Takeaways from this interview included how the process of facilitated debriefing helped the Asheville Fire Department identify the 16 focus areas that represented opportunities for improvement, the importance of having an air management protocol and changing the department's culture about air management, the need to have the right staffing front-loaded at an incident scene, including a command aide or command technician to support the incident commander, the value of completing critical task analysis to determine how many personnel are needed to perform vital tasks at incidents, such as RIT and incident management, the importance of training personnel on how and when to call a mayday, the focus they now have on health and wellness, ensuring members are fit for duty and providing on-duty time for workouts. Again, that's episodes 43 and 44 with Asheville Fire Chief Scott Burnett. All right, let me summarize that list one more time for you. Coming in at number 10, episodes 183, 184, and 185 from St. Charles, Missouri. Coming in at number 9, episode 29 from Spokane, Washington. Coming in at number 8, episodes 22 and 23 from Youngstown, Ohio. Coming in at number 7, episodes 35 and 36 from Winnipeg, Manitoba. At number 6, episodes 162 and 163 from Lynchburg, Virginia. Number 5, episode 18 from Aurora, Colorado. Coming in the 4th place, episode 101 from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Coming in at number 3, episode 55 from Cypress Creek, Texas. Coming in at number 2, episode 17 from Indianapolis, Indiana. And coming in number 1, episodes 43 and 44 from Asheville, North Carolina.
Welcome to Chief Miller. Chief Miller operates the largest social media page dedicated to the men and women of the fire service from around the world. Check him out on Instagram at Chief_Miller. Find him on Twitter at Chief_Miller. And check out the website where you can find Chief Miller Apparel at chiefmillerapparel.com.
Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,300 organizations and more than 75,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, public transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery process operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environment, we're here to help improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters. Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters. Know your water supply, because SA matters. Bears and Cougars, SA matters. Go versus no-go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters. SA matters, so don't get angry. When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
I'd like to take a moment to honor and thank the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their team members. Syncrude Canada Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. The Quad County Fire Chiefs Association in Lewiston, Idaho. And the Pearland Fire Department in Pearland, Texas. If you're interested in attending one of our programs, here's where we're going to be upcoming. On January 26th at the Toledo Fire Department in Toledo, Ohio. January 29th, the Whitecourt Fire Department in Whitecourt, Alberta. That one is going to be a live, virtual, online training event. February 2 and 3, the Missouri Winter Fire School in Columbia, Missouri. February 22nd, the West Virginia Emergency Services Conference in Pipestem, West Virginia. February 25th, the Grand Rapids Fire Department in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. February 26th, the Hibbing Fire Department in Hibbing, Minnesota. February 27th, the Mountain Iron Fire Department in Mountain Iron, Minnesota. And February 28th, the Lutsen Fire Department in Lutsen, Minnesota. March 5 through 7, the Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. March 12th, the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. And March 25 through April 3, the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii. And if you're going to FDIC in April, look for me there on Thursday afternoon. I'll be presenting a situational awareness program again Thursday afternoon.
I think Rich's ability to connect with any crowd, that's a gift that he has, and it's easily transferable.
This is the second or third time that I've heard him speak. There's some teeth to the information that he brings.
It's been really good. Good mixes. He knows when to throw in a joke here and there to get you back involved.
Some tools. I'm a new lieutenant, so very, very interesting. And some of these things I can take back to the station and use with some of the new firefighters I have on my crew.
Something to get you thinking about your job more, big picture type stuff. I've seen him before. A good review for sure.
I have heard him before, yes. After he speaks, there's usually an enlightenment because now they're more aware of what's going on around them and what they're experiencing as they respond to calls.
He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying it so far.
And that intuition, that's a big one. The video that he just showed up here, we're getting a lot out of this. I think this is a really good seminar, especially for new people and old. So I think it's very informative. This talk gives us more ammunition to do all three.
They're relatable to what we have experienced or very well could experience, so he makes it easy to let the knowledge sink in.
I mean, it's awesome. A lot of stories you can usually relate to yourself and calls you have been on, aha moment. Like, he just helps you focus on picking out the right things. It's awesome. It's a refresher and keeps my eyes open. It's good stuff.
If people listen to the message that he has, it's an incredible message delivered by a very compassionate person. Strategy and tactics are going to always change. Situational awareness it doesn't change. It's always there.
He's got some good stories to tell, and he's very thorough with his stories, and it's interesting listening to him.
Very clear speaker, and he talks on our level because he's been there, he's been in the trenches. I think he's doing well, and I'm looking forward to the second half.
see the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage, and I will give you a call. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there are several ways that you can do that. Just check the show notes for how to get connected with us through our newsletter membership, podcast subscribers, YouTube subscribers, and how to follow us on social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 248 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you to our awesome sponsors, Midwest Fire and Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations and associations that have hosted a Situational Awareness Matters training program. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted the live, virtual, internet-based training events where I come to the organization live via the internet to train your team. Thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.